All right, everyone. Welcome to Establishing Meaning Relationships with Brands and Working with Long-Term Partnerships. Today, we're going to be talking about forgetting about the one and done deals and having to build real meaningful relationships with brands in the future. My name is Paola Mendez, and I am the founder of the Blogger Union. And the Blogger Union, for those of you who are not familiar with us, is a network of blogger communities dedicated to growing our members' brands and incomes through meetups and workshops just like this. And we have communities all across the US. I run in the Miami area, the South Florida bloggers, but we also have the DC bloggers, which Carly is representing here today. You can see her in the second square. We also have the Houston bloggers, New York City bloggers, Minneapolis bloggers, Atlanta bloggers, Southern California bloggers. So if you'd like to find out more about it, please check us out at thebloggerunion.com. My blog is Coral Gables Love, in case you'd like to check that out. Helping us today, Carly in the second square right there, is the chapter officer from the DC bloggers. Her blog is thecarlychic.com, and you can follow her at thecarlychic. She is going to be helping us in the chat. If you guys have any questions, she is ruling the chat today. And let me introduce you to our speaker today, Persephone from Everyday Vogue. She's a twin mama. She is a lifestyle and fashion blogger. Plus, she runs a social media agency. So welcome, Persephone.
Hi guys, thank you for having me. Thank you for joining. I wish we were in person, but this is really cool and definitely has been the highlight of my week. So happy to be here.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing all of your secrets and tips to working with brands long term. So could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got started blogging?
Yes, so I feel like my journey is an unusual one, and I'm going to go backwards and then we'll go to the present day, okay? So I was working for a company called Wedding Wire in the Knot for 12 years, and I headed up their social media and strategic partnerships. So I worked with like Target and Macy's and David's Bridal and did really fun things like that. And I actually launched 5 years ago an account called Bridal Vogue, which has 200,000 followers. At that time, I also launched a social media agency and did the side hustle thing for a little while. And then 2 years ago, decided that the best way for me to really grow and expand my knowledge and experience was to launch the Everyday Vogue.com. And it has been one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I just felt like there was a lot of perfection on Instagram, and I wanted to take that beautiful imagery, but then also really put some depth and talk about things that are uncomfortable. Talk about things that are uncomfortable. Talk about things that are more important than just fashion, but talk about fashion too. Just go a little bit deeper. So that's what started, and I really love the community that we built.
That's amazing. And I'm so perfect that you're talking a little bit about why it is that you got started, because for us to be able to get to the point of building really meaningful relationships with brands, I think we have to start at the very beginning. And for that, we have to start blogging for the right reasons. So you talk about that a little bit and tell us a little bit about that.
Let's talk about that. So I think right now, in particular, during quarantine, where a lot of people are sitting at home and being like, I've always wanted to start a blog. I want to be an influencer. What does that really mean? And if you're only going into it for the money, then I'll tell you to sit down. If you're still standing after, I've had you think about that question, and you feel like there's a deeper purpose, or you feel like you can push yourself to be self-motivated for the first 6-9 months to a year of being consistent and creating a reason and a purpose and a conversation, then stay around and let's keep talking. I really think that there's right now it's harder to enter this space, but there's plenty of room to still enter the space. It's just how you go about it has to be a little bit different than it was 5 years ago even.
Absolutely. And I think the key is that if you decided, I'm going to start blogging because I want to make money, it's the wrong reason to start blogging. And it's unfortunately going to guide you when you're making decisions, and it's going to hinder you from making the decisions that's going to help you grow your platforms and attract brands. So that's why I absolutely agree with you that you have to start.
So actually, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So before you start your blog, you have to think about it the way I recommend thinking about it, as starting a mini business. Because if you think about it like that, then you will hold yourself accountable, and then you can kind of structure the brands you want to align with, the values that you want to be putting out there, the content and the message. Everything kind of falls in place afterwards. And so from Jump Street, I looked at it as like, this is now a new business for us. I say us because I have my social media agency, and so it needs to be different, but it needs to operate like a business on its own. So I think that that's really, really important. It also just helps you think smarter. And when you take yourself seriously, that attracts a different kind of brand too. But we'll keep going.
Definitely. So, all right. So we all started, change our mindset. We're starting with for the right reasons. We have a goal of helping some community solve some problem and deliver value. And we put on our business owner hat. So now we're ready to start working with a brand. I guess the first step is reaching out to contact a brand. But where do you start? How do you find the right person to reach out to?
Such a great question. So I'm actually going to say, before we even do that step, what I recommend doing is a little homework on the brand. See who they've worked with in the past. You can just look at who they're tagged in and who they're tagging as well. Do you fit with what they're putting out there? Even if you don't, that's okay, because we all know that brands need a little bit of a shakeup from time to time, especially right now. But is it someone that you really do get down with? Awesome. Before you contact them, you should be talking about them on your own in a very organic way, and show your love before you even ask for anything. So I say that's the homework you have to do before you even ask for anything or go to the next step. And once you've done that, then there's, of course, a few different things that you should do. So obviously, follow them. Make sure you're following them. I don't know why sometimes I hear that isn't happening. Make sure you're hitting them with a follow, because you want it back. Definitely send a message and ask who the proper contact is. Tell them and show them with screenshots that you've talked about them, or if you even have a post, send the link and ask, and try and take the conversation off DM as quickly as possible. So that's like the first line of command in my yeah, because it just elevates it. You never know if that person is responsible for just social media. Do they have other jobs? Are they like the decision maker? So you want to make sure you're moving this to a more professional setting, if you will.
Absolutely. And actually, taking it back a couple of steps, whenever we talk about reaching out to a brand and asking for a collaboration, we tend to get the same question. And it's, how many followers should you have before you reach out to work with a brand?
Love this question. If you have one follower, you're good. If you have something to say or perspective, you're good. And I think it's what I hope all of you take away today is just the confidence to ask, and not feeling let down if the answer is no, because it's just no for right now, and you just keep going after it. So if you have one follower who cares about what you have to say, ask. Truly.
That is great advice, especially that, you know, at the beginning, if you have just the one follower, you know, you are still creating content for the brand. And that is really, really valuable, no matter how many followers you have. I saw this post floating around Instagram this week, and it was a receipt of all the things that content creators do for brands.
Oh my God.
And it was like the cost of the model, the cost of the photographer, of the graphic designer, of the copywriter, all of these things that you are providing that they would have had to pay for when you were creating content for them. So definitely have the confidence to ask for what you're worth. And we already have a question from Melissa.
I'm gonna ask if we should start talking about some of these questions, or if we should, you tell me, whatever.
Maybe we'll take them if they fit in, and don't worry if you feel like we didn't get to your question, we'll get to the rest of the questions at the end. But I think Melissa has a good question, and she is asking, do you need a media kit before reaching out to brands?
I say absolutely yes. So here's the thing about a media kit. When you're sending a media kit, you're saying, I'm serious about my brand and I'm serious about your brand. So you don't need to have 100,000 followers. If you have your one brand to show, or your one follower to show, that's enough. And all you need on that is your demographics, your purpose. Actually, number one, your purpose. Why is your blog around? Why is your brand around? What are the topics that you're covering? And then any sort of demographics you can provide, great. Screenshots you can provide, great. But I like to say that you should probably keep it, especially when you're first starting off at a page. And then you can, if you have worked with anybody in the past, even if it's gifted, definitely list those people out. And I like to actually include photos of the work that I'm super proud of with the collaborations I'm proud of too.
Yes, absolutely. Because as a rule, usually when you you reach out to a brand, they tend to respond asking for your media kit. So it's a good idea to have that ready before you start reaching out. And I love what you said about having photographs of past collaborations so that the brand can get an immediate idea of what your work looks like. And then in other webinars, some speakers have even suggested that you can make your media kit interactive and add links to those photographs that'll take them to the blog post, or will take them to your Instagram post, so that they can see what kind of engagement you got and all that good stuff.
You have to think about it like this. If you're an executive at a company and you're getting served up so many media kits, you need to make it as easy to digest as possible, right? So not only do I recommend doing that in a media kit, but then in my email, I'll be like, here is a link to my Instagram. Here is a link to my Facebook. Here is a link. These are some of the brands I've worked with. Almost like a mini recap, just in like, you know, writing as to what the media kit is gonna give them, just in case they don't open it.
Oh, that is really smart. That's a great advice. So, okay, let's get back to, we're reaching out to the brand, and you said, okay, I send them a DM. Would you mind giving us just like a specific example of what that DM would look like? What would you say?
So I did one again today, just so that we could even have.
Perfect.
I wrote a blog post yesterday about 5 items, like healthy swaps on Amazon. And some of the people I'm working with and some of the people I'm not working with. And I wanted to use it as leverage to work with me. So the brand is GG Crackers, and we eat them religiously. And so I was like, hey, I blogged about you and talked about you in this post. I'm obviously obsessed with your product. I would love to know who handles your influencer collaborations. Can you put me in touch? And they immediately gave me their email address, because I already validated the fact that I love what you're talking about. I love what you're doing. I'm already like a subscriber of what you're doing. And they said, you know, send them an email and we'll see if you're a good fit. Great. Or say it's, you know, a clothing brand. I would recommend at the earlier points to work with or to reach out to brands who are smaller from a clothing perspective. But don't be afraid, even if you have 2,000 or 3,000 followers. I mean, the Forever 21s of the world love the micro influencers. In fact, I think that all of our content is better than some of the people who have above that, because we work harder for it, because we're trying to think differently. So don't undercut yourself by thinking, well, I don't have a huge following. Well, if you're putting out great content, brands respect that and they need that actually. So just don't focus too much on the follower count. Talk about the story and the narrative and the quality of what you're providing.
Absolutely. I love that. And we did have someone say in the chat that they reached out to a brand and they seemed kind of interested, but they asked her how many followers, and then they said, oh, they're not looking for anyone right now. And something that you said earlier that I love is that a no is not a no. It's just a no right now.
Yep. So absolutely. I'm trying to find who exactly that was. So I think it was Lulu. Yeah, Lulu. So, and to all of you, here's the thing about that. When you get a no, go in your calendar and put a reminder to yourself to reach out to them in 3 months, exactly 3 months, okay? And then you're gonna say, hey, like, here's another example of why I love your brand so much. I'm wondering if there's any upcoming initiatives, or present an idea as to how you can fit in. So don't be discouraged. You will get told no most of the time. Then it starts to change, but still it's going to be an upward battle. And you need to know that when you're walking into this environment that like, you got to have thick skin because like, you never know someone's budgets. There's so many unknowns, right? But it doesn't mean that it's personal. So you have to take the personal and throw it out the window, but be consistent and stay on top of that brand.
Oh my God, I love that. Yeah. I absolutely. And the thing about having thick skin is when you start reaching out to brands, if you do make a connection, it's amazing. But to get to that point, you're going to have to go through so many no's. So it's just like, the difference between no's and yes, you have to know that starting off so that you don't get discouraged. I think that's great advice.
Exactly. So part of that experience comes from my background. So in order to work with Target, which I worked with Target at the company before I started my own, I had to be told no literally 300 times every single month. It was 5 years until I finally got a yes. So it takes that in order to show value, and you have to think of it. So again, if you're thinking about this as a business, approach it like that, then you take away the like, I'm not good enough. It's not about you. It's about whatever's going on with them. And you have to keep going and keep chugging along, and you'll find your people, and your people will probably be a better fit than that brand initially, to be honest with you.
Perfect. I love that. Yeah. Okay. So I think Lisa has a question that is perfectly aligned with my next question. So she says, because we have already reached out through DM now, and they gave us that magical email of the right person we have to contact via email now. So I was going to ask you, what do you say in that email? And Lisa also is asking, should we keep the initial email to the brand short and sweet, or a few paragraphs with details? Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay, you need to be very concise. So I say this in every possible way. Don't send paragraphs through DM. Don't send paragraphs through email, because just think about how annoying it is when someone sends you like several emailed long novel out of thin air too. It just doesn't sit right. So if it's a cold email, just make it short and sweet. Make sure you have your media kit attached. Sometimes I include pricing, sometimes I don't. Oftentimes I don't, because you don't ever know like where they are, and you need to kind of have that conversation, but show your capabilities. So I do want to talk about that really quickly, but we'll like put this right on the side for a second and talk about the email. You say who you are, what you're about. So for me, I'm a twin mom. I own my own business. I love social media, and I love fashion and fitness. Those are like always my things. And here are my followers. Here's my Facebook. Here's my TikTok. Here's my everything. And this is why I want to work with you. So that's actually like, after I've introduced myself, I say, this is what I want, why I want to work with you, why I think my followers would love your brand just as much as I do. This is the idea that I'm thinking about. Is there any way for us to collaborate? every message you send, you have to not think about it about you. And I can't stress that enough. In order to be successful with these brands, you need to think from their perspective. Have you seen something that, or heard, that, for example, Target is doing something with Love Shack Fancy, and you happen to have everything from Love Shack Fancy, and you wanted to do a video for them? I mean, pitch it, because it might come true. Or some concept that you've been wanting to showcase. Like for me, I've been very into videos and TikTok lately, so that's something that and brands are really attracted to TikTok. So will you send me a bunch of clothes so I can do a haul while I'm also sharing my social media tips? Awesome. That, if you're giving them an idea, it's a lot harder to say no than just like, here's my information, do what you want with it. That's more of a top, like that's more of a delete kind of email, or like put it in an archive somewhere. A concrete idea is pretty solid. It's much harder to turn away.
That is brilliant advice. Plus, you're kind of helping them do their job, right? They have to come up with these brilliant ideas. And exactly how Persephone keeps saying, don't make it about you, make it about the brand, and specifically the person that is on the other side of that email. So way you can make their life easier is going to build that relationship with that brand. So talking about building a relationship with that brand, we talked about having a media kit, right? But it's a little bit different to actually have a portfolio of brands that you have worked with in the past. And we have been getting a few questions about that. Some people asking, what do you do if you haven't worked with brands before when it comes to your portfolio? So can you tell us a little bit about how you go about building a portfolio?
Such a great question, and one that I struggled with myself at the first, the earliest most points. So anything that is gifted goes in the portfolio. So I remember one of the first companies I reached out to, this was like, I had like a list of dream people, and Quest Nutrition, Quest bars, eat them all the time. So I was like, I'm going to land them. Even if it's gifted, I'm going to land them. And so I landed them. Great, that went on my portfolio. Then it was easier for me to approach the next activewear brand, or I think it was an activewear brand, because I already had worked with them. Again, going after it as gifted. So if you're going at first with money, it's gonna be harder if you don't have anything to show for it. So if you take that idea and just like, the money's gonna come if you keep working at it, but go after the gifting first to build up the portfolio, build up the confidence in yourself, build up the content and the reliability and all of that. And then you layer on the fact that like, okay, you do have representation of working with brands that you can charge. Then it's just an easier conversation, and it also takes a lot off of you. To that point, I want to mention that at the earliest point, I really want to say like a few months into launching Everyday Vogue, I was reaching out to local companies to see if I could get my hair done, I could get my nails done, eyelashes in exchange for, and all of those people went on the portfolio. I do want to also mention this point because I think it's so important, and I've seen a lot of newer content creators get misstep here. When you are doing something with a brand, gifted, not gifted, paid for, not gifted meaning like the step before it's gifted or paid for. So that like homework that I was talking about before. Go above and beyond whatever you think is going to be contracted or is contracted. Because if you do, and push comes to shove and they are looking to take on a new creator, or you've already worked with them and you've gone above and beyond with that brand, who do you think they're going to ask to be part of the next campaign? The one who did more. And I'm not saying to kill yourself over it, but I am saying like, just because Pinterest isn't on the contract doesn't mean you don't pin it, or don't give them a shout out on TikTok, or don't post it on Facebook. Like, do what you would want done to you. So I really think, again, if you position it like that in your mind, it's easier to get and keep winning down the road.
Absolutely. I loved that. And if we get a little bit more specific about that portfolio again, what tools do you use to build this portfolio?
I mean, for me, I always work with a photographer. At the earlier stages, it's my husband, Eddie. But I do think that a tool is also who you're collaborating with, from the content creation perspective. So for me, I started to reach out to different up and coming photographers, because like if you can hustle together, then you're going to create something probably more beautiful in the end. So that's the first thing. The second thing is Canva. So you need for it to not look like stingy. You need for it to look professional. So Canva makes it so easy. There's a bunch of free templates. Just use it, stick your information in there. It's super, super easy. And honestly, like if you have questions, contact me because I'll help you navigate with that too.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Of course.
All right. So, okay. So we reached out via DM, we got that contact, we sent them an amazing email with a great idea, and the brand rep took the nibble and they're interested.
Yes.
So now, what is the next step, and how can we protect ourselves as influencers to not getting burnt?
Okay. So you need to ask for a contract. Even if it's gifted, you need to ask for a contract. If for some reason they're like newer, younger, I'm seeing a lot of DMs from brands being like, oh, I'm so new, we're a startup, so, you know, we're not gonna like pay, or we're not gonna, you know, put anything in writing. Everything in writing, everything in writing. What you're going to get and what you're going to give, because it's clean. Even if it's an email and you say, okay, I'm going to post around this date to this date, I'm going to give you X, Y, Z, and you're going to give me X, Y, Z. Like that's enough to protect yourself. And I mean, I feel like early on, I didn't realize that I needed to do that. I've had to learn the hard way. So even as early as, even if it's working with a hair salon, like put it in writing, put everything in writing.
Perfect. Love that. Yeah, put it in writing for sure, even if it's just an email. Okay, so we're in the stage that we're talking with them and we're about to get everything and figure out what we're going to get in writing. But I think before we get to that stage, we should talk a little bit more about what the main topic of this webinar is. And it's like, we reach out to a brand and we want to propose a partnership that is not a one and done partnership. We want to propose a long-term partnership. So what does a long-term partnership look like, and how do you go about that?
Okay. So again, whether you have 5 followers, 5,000, 50,000, you want to lock in the goods as quickly as possible, right? So if you pitch to them, this is what I'm going to do for you. Here's some concepts, and I would like to work with you over the next 3 months at this rate. It's going to be, you're making their job easier, and you're also locking in dollars for yourself long term. So that sometimes means an adjustment to your rate. So you're like, as you know, since in true partnership, we want to create a long-standing relationship, then you adjust your rates to give them a discount or make them feel like they're getting a better deal for working with you for 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. It makes such a difference. And I started to change this mindset this year, and it's like the only thing I will do. I won't do one-off posts anymore, because then, like, what does that say to your audience too? Are you necessarily expected to get that when you're, you know, newly starting up? Not necessarily, but if you are looking to build a relationship and reciprocity with a brand, then what you should do, for example, with Quest and I had decided that we were going to do a gifted partnership for 1 month, and then I promoted them the very next month too. So then it changes things, right? So I didn't have to do that. but it says, I want to keep working with you. And so we kept working together, and it's a really great relationship. So it's just, that is also your opportunity to take the roots of what you've got to offer, what they've got to offer, and really deepen them, and make it meaningful.
Okay, great. So we have Autumn here. She asked a question, and I think she is perfectly prepped to start. You know, she is already engaged in a long-term relationship, but it is only in exchange for gifted items right now, and she wants to transition into paid. Can you give us any insight into how she can make that transition?
Absolutely. Once you have done any campaign, and this goes for anything, gifted, paid, anything, any relationship, send a recap of what you've done, okay? So that recap is gonna include the engagement on that photo, the insights. I always include some of the top like comments, the ones that are like, oh, I've never heard of that brand before, I can't wait to try it. Or thank you so much, I just bought XYZ because you told me to. Any DMs that you get, like, you need to build a case as to why they need to continue to work with you. And so if you do this, again, thinking of it as a business and on repeat, then you can go to that brand and say, here are the 3 recaps that I have of my performance. I would like to take our relationship from gifted to more of a long-standing relationship, as I have with insert XYZ other brand. I believe that I've built that relationship with you, that you know what I'm going to deliver. I always go above and beyond for you. And what would that mean from your perspective? What's your budget looking like? It's okay to ask for what their budget looks like. And you can decide whether or not you want to meet that budget or not. I mean, hey, there are things, especially during quarantine, that I'm doing that I didn't necessarily think that I would take, but I wanted to make their budget work, and I also want to grow the relationship, and that's totally cool. That's totally cool.
That's great advice. And so now that we're talking a little bit about money, Paige is asking, how do we start figuring out our pricing and what we charge brands? We have a couple of people asking about pricing. They're not sure how to start pricing their services and their partnerships.
So I think that it matters a whole lot less about your follower count and a whole lot more about your engagement. Okay, so I think that the old rule that's like $100 per 10,000 followers is garbage. I think it is. You can have a lot higher engagement with 3,000 followers, but you're getting 1,000 likes per photo. I mean, just do a little math, and that's how you position yourself. So in that respect, I just started to throw numbers out and see what the reaction was. And that would be my recommendation to you. If they come back and say, that's out of my budget, then you go back and say, what's your budget? So it doesn't shut the door. And I wanted to also go back to, you send a media kit, you send something, don't expect to necessarily hear back. It's on you to reach back out and say, I just wanted to check in. And that check-in time is like 3 days to a week. It's on you to be on top of them, not the other way around. And just because they don't email you, even the first or second time, who cares? Keep going.
That's a really brilliant advice. I think most people are afraid of following up. And
you get the deal.
Yeah, and it turns out that when you follow up is when, like, even if they were considering you, they're so busy that you need to pop yourself back at the top of their list
all
so
the time.
Have a chance.
All the time. I mean, I think about some of the emails that I get myself. I'm like, oh, shoot, I forgot to email them back, but I am still really interested. And I mean, it happens. It happens. And so you just have to think about, like, again, it's not about you. You are in charge. You can take charge. It doesn't matter if you have 1 follower. You have something to say and you have beautiful content to share. That it's a mindset shift.
Absolutely. And so I want to address a couple of people who are asking if this is going to be available as a replay. And yes, this replay will be available on the Blogger Union YouTube channel. If Carly, you can share the link to the YouTube channel. If you want to subscribe, you'll get notified for any upcoming webinars, including this one. So now that we got that out of the way, we are talking about long-term relationships, but unfortunately, we are also starting to see some very sketchy brands out there. And they're doing some like weird stuff that are taking advantage of influencers, kind of reaching out, asking them to buy their products. And can you tell us a little bit about that, and how can we recognize what the difference between a legitimate brand who wants to start a legitimate long-term partnership versus a sketchy brand?
Totally. So there's a bunch of things. My personal opinion and best recommendation is, if they're asking you to buy something, you do not mess with them. You do not mess with them. They're not giving you anything. They're saying that they are not going to give you anything, and they're not invested in you to even gift you something. No, that's like a hard no for me. But for these other brands that are saying like, I want you to be a brand ambassador or DM me for collab. No. You do not DM them for collab. Like, I don't even know what bot system that is. It's so bad. Just ignore it altogether. Yeah, someone's saying that's so fake. It's so bad. It like makes me so angry. I have such a visceral reaction to it. Now, say there's a brand that you're not familiar with that reaches out to you. That happens to me all the time. Some of them are legit. So just do a little research. There's a lot of really odd Amazon brands that are going to reach out to you. Personally, like, I think that it's going to be hard to transition that into any sort of partnership that is meaningful. So I would caution you against that. Truly caution you against that. Just like I would with here's a code for you to buy something. No. Do your research. Make sure they're a legit brand. Like, make sure that they've actually worked with influencers before. Look at their Instagram page. Just, again, do your homework. Just like they're doing their homework on you, you have every right to do your homework on them. And to that point, when you're talking about brand relationships, this is my method. It doesn't work for everybody. I'm very stingy with who I'm giving my time to, because I think that in order to build trust with a brand and your audience about that brand, if you're talking about every brand possible and you are basically a lover of everybody, that's not necessarily a good thing. And that's why I was saying that if you're going into blogging just for the money, you need to maybe rethink that. Because if you don't have other value that you're building from this, like, you're devaluing your own brand by working with everybody. It's just a fact, especially now. Especially now.
Absolutely. And not only that, but I've also heard so many brand representatives talk about scrolling through influencers who seem like they're a good fit for the brand, but it was just sponsored, that there isn't a balance between the sponsored posts and just their regular content. And so they don't work with them. Yeah.
If you can't share what you are about organically, and like there is an overtaking of sponsored posts, that's a huge red flag. So I've also spoken to many influencer management agencies, and that is like a huge problem. And again, I understand COVID, quarantine, like all of that, but just make sure you're balancing it with what is true and authentic to you. And that doesn't mean that you can't be talking about a true and authentic brand that you love. It just might not be sponsored. So just like, remember that.
I absolutely. So here, Catherine has a question about how do you get on a brand's list?
Okay, so there are so many different agencies out there who they have their own systems. And they are gonna contact you out of the blue. You're like, how did you even find me? And ask them, how did you find me? Because sometimes it's just a system that they have that's a platform that they use. Or sometimes they've just done their own homework, but you need to know what it is that they're like, that they have contacted you versus this person next to you. So asking that question is totally, totally normal. As far as getting on the brand's lists, I would say you should, as an early content creator, actually be more proactive and sign up for the lists, which are the influencer marketing agency platforms like the Aspire IQs, like the Fours of the world, Activate, Maverick, Sway. I have a TikTok that literally lists them all out. Definitely do that because, and I feel like when I was so early on, I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't even know that Aspire IQ or Activate existed. And these platforms are designed for you to upload your media kit, for you to present yourself, and then you can go and say, tap a brand and be like, hey, I'm really interested in your brand, or they're coming and pitching you. It makes such a difference. I haven't used Influencer before, Melissa, but I've used basically everything else. And it's a great way to at least start to build reciprocity in your portfolio too. And that's how I landed L'Oreal, was through Aspire IQ. And L'Oreal was definitely on my like dream board. And then I worked several times with L'Oreal because I sent them recaps and I was like, hey, I continue to use your products. Genuinely, my whole family does, and we love hair up in this house. So, so we continue to work together. Someone else was saying Aspire IQ and Activate are great. Yeah, I mean, I think they're really, really great. I will say, and this is something that I've had to learn, is they are platforms. So it's good because it's being watched. Like there's a third party monitoring things, but you're not necessarily protected. So you still need to protect yourself. You still need to review the terms. You still need everything in writing, which luckily they're great about things like that. But it makes things very easy and transparent. If for some reason, you do have brands who are contacting you directly, and it's definitely going to happen, again, I cannot stress the contract.
Wonderful. And also another way to get on a brand's list is trying to find their PR agency. So, and just emailing that PR agency and telling them that you love X product and you'd like to get on their list. And that way, if they have a influencer event in your city, or they're sending out free samples or whatever, you're on that influencer list. So Melissa here has a question about when you receive a gifted product and you don't like it, how do you handle that?
Such a great question. Okay. So I am very transparent, and if someone's going to gift me something, I say that I have to try it and I have to genuinely like it in order for me to talk about it. So there was this one, I wanted it to work so bad. But there's this one product that was sent to me. It was a food item, and I am very particular about food. I have a gluten allergy. I don't want someone to buy something that tastes horrible. Like I just no. And I just couldn't do it. So I sent them a message back and was like, I'm so grateful. Thank you. It's not for me. I hope that we can keep this relationship open. Keep letting me know about new products that arrive or arise, and keep me on your radar. And they kept sending me things, which was very kind. It still wasn't my jam, but like, I think because I wasn't like, this sucks, it left opportunity for them to have a good taste in their mouth, because you never know if that's a PR person handling that account. You never know. So you don't want to leave a bad taste in anyone's mouth. You always need to look awesome and be your own PR person.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you mentioned that you don't know if it's the PR person handling that email, because PR people like to talk with other PR people. So if you come off as rude or unprofessional with one PR person, they will talk, and maybe the whole agency, they'll share information. And just as how they'll share negative information, they share positive information. So if you follow Persephone's advice of being super helpful and sharing your stats after the collaboration, and you then, like, for example, I don't know if you guys know, Blame It on May. She used to be a chapter officer of the South Florida Bloggers. she did a hotel collaboration with one PR person in a company, and she told her coworker that she was great. So when they were looking for an influencer to stay at a different hotel, she was recommended. So definitely be careful with how you communicate with the brands.
So I wanted to talk about this really quickly because I thought this was really, really awesome, an awesome question. So how do you collaborate with brands on creating your own products and ideas with them? I'd love to down the road create my own products with brands. How do you get into that? For example, I'd love to create my own line. So I'm not sure how big your following is. I love that idea. I think it's okay to be like, I love XYZ product. This is my dream and vision. And if that opportunity ever arose, like, I want you to think of me without shoving it down their throat. Say, like, I would love that opportunity, because if it's a right fit, then it'll happen. Again, I think from a product, like, collaboration perspective, like, that I believe takes a lot more, like, substantiated following in order to land those kinds of deals. But it might work out with a smaller brand who just is like, they've seen your conversions. If you prove out with dollars and cents how great you are, then yeah, go after and say, like, we should partner up because all my people buy everything that I say that about you. So anytime you can use data to support another, like, reason for them to invest in you, that's what you need to lead with. I always lead with my data.
Lovely.
Yeah.
We have another question from Sabrina, and she's asking, should a student charge less than a professional?
No, you are still hustling. Don't undercut yourself. Are you kidding me? These people died to have you. No. Again, you can start a business in college, you can start a business in high school. Absolutely, you are worth every single dollar, every single gift, every single thing. Your time is valuable.
Love it. I love it how Persephone is inspiring us to know our worth. Love it.
Yes. Yes.
So almost at the beginning of this conversation, you were talking about knowing your skill sets.
Yeah.
And someone asked if you had worked with another brand as a professional. Can you include that in your portfolio?
100%. So Everyday Vogue is my personal blog. But Bridal Vogue that I mentioned earlier, that has 200,000 followers, the way I landed those brand deals, I used my professional relationship that after I left my day job and was like, hey, you've known I've had Bridal Vogue, like, we've known each other, let's do something. And it was like, of course I want to support you. Of course I want to support you. So I don't think, don't be scared to ask. Don't be scared to have the conversation. Give them a little digest as to what you're up to. Or if you have any sort of angle that differentiates you from the person next to you, use it. And that's why I always lead, honestly, with twin mom, because that's generally, they're like, oh, the twin mom, right? Well, yes, that's probably they're in there watching. But if that's the hook and the reason why you remember me, awesome. But I'm going to give you 5 other reasons to remember me too.
Brilliant. That is great advice, trying to differentiate yourself. And that's something that I've seen brands wanting a lot of. So other examples of members, beauty brands looking for professional makeup artists, or a tourism board who would hire an influencer because she was scuba certified and she could give that angle of always traveling and having the review of their scuba diving. So always, if you have like a hobby or you're a professional at something, that is an asset actually, and you should definitely highlight that.
Yes, use whatever your angle is. I want to answer this question about TikTok because TikTok is my jam. Everyday Vogue, follow me there. What you'll see is almost all blogger and social content. Those are my niches, and I cannot even begin to express the value of TikTok right now to a brand because it's so new. And because for you as a content creator, there's so much opportunity to make an impact, and you don't have that uphill battle that you do on Instagram. Like, please, everybody get on TikTok. That's a topic for another conversation. But the value of TikTok is probably, and what I'm finding, more valuable, even though my following is significantly less. The value, the views, the engagement is way more important, and you can charge a lot on TikTok because there's just endless opportunities. You can grow so fast. You can grow 1,000 followers overnight. Like, the content that you can create is fast and easy to digest. It's easy to go viral. It's just like so powerful right now. And I've been using it in every single pitch that I'm sending out, every single one.
Absolutely. And have you had any experience with, because just as influencer marketing, it's like a spectrum. Some brands are very well versed with influencer marketing and others are just dipping their toes in the water. Have you had any range of brands saying that they are interested in working with TikTok content versus not?
Great question. Everyone is very interested in TikTok if they have even a semi-established brand. There's at least curiosity there. So even if the content doesn't live, like, that's not the main focus, I give them TikTok too, because again, just giving more, then I'm building more value. So for example, I did a campaign on Instagram that I actually initially made for TikTok. I used all the product and I like mentioned them. It didn't look sponsored on TikTok, but it was extra content that I gave to them so that they could think about that, because TikTok is going to be on their radar. If it's not this month, it's going to be on their radar next month. And Lavandra, get back on TikTok. It's time. I've got you. I'll walk you through it.
Okay, lovely. So
Yes.
I think we are starting to wrap things up, but before we do, I did want to ask you if you could give us an example of a long-term partnership that has worked really well for you.
Yes. I would say Miracle Noodles is probably one of my favorites, and here's why. So it started off as Miracle Noodles are shirataki noodles. I have a gluten allergy. I eat them religiously. Ate them during my pregnancy. It's just part of my diet. And I reached out to them at the earliest stage, and they paid me early, when I had maybe 3,000 followers, because they saw me talk about them so consistently. And then now it's like, not only are they paying me, but they also send me product. It's just a really beautiful relationship. I talk about them constantly and go give them way more than what is contracted for, and it comes back in spades. And I just love that relationship. Another one I wanted to mention here on my vision board was Revolve. So Revolve was like probably my #1 pick, like all-star VIP pick in my mind. And I was consistent. I was like, okay, for 3 months, I'm going to wear almost only like pieces from there. And I sent them message after message. I mean, like every 3 months, it's me again. Here's more me and my family in Revolve things. And no answer. Fine. Out of nowhere, I got an email from them saying like, hey, we want you to be part of our ambassador program. And I didn't even believe it until like we were at the contract stage, just because I was like, is this really happening? Like at the time I had 20,000 followers. Like, is this happening? But it is, because I was consistent. I always tagged them. I always tagged their subsequent brands. So I got like very specific, if it's like even ASOS or, you know, any subsidiary brand under that umbrella, always got really specific with it. They never hit me with a like. They never like acknowledged anything on Instagram, but then there they were, and now we're in a relationship. And then during COVID, when things had to stop, I was like, no problem. I continued to post about them. And then 3 weeks ago, I was like, here, I'm guessing things have like calmed down on your end as the world is starting to wake up again. Here is 3 months worth of content. Can we restart this relationship? Of course. Like, how can you not say that? That's what a good friend would do. And when I'm looking at brands, I'm looking at what a good friend would do, what a good partner would do. And it's going to help you long term.
That is brilliant. So I think that was our last question. And you wanted to treat somebody for a giveaway. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
100%. So I offer a blogger mentorship program where you will have an hour with me and I will help you and coach you with literally whatever you want. If you want to get really granular on your media kit, if you want to get really granular on like to know it, whatever you want, the hour is yours. And to anyone who is on here who wants to win an hour, just DM me that you were a participant and I am going to randomly select one of you. And to just this has been awesome.
That sounds amazing. So you guys make sure you DM her. I don't know if you want to put your Instagram URL again in the chat so that they can just click away and DM you.
Right now. So definitely follow me. And I absolutely want to get to know you guys. I've been doing several every single week, and just to see the progress has been amazing, and know that once we have that relationship together, that I'll always be there for you to bounce ideas and help guide you along. So I'm really excited to get to know you guys.
That sounds like a dream come true, having someone that can answer every single question you have along the way. So guys, definitely sign up for that giveaway and send her a DM, Lulu, for sure.
Oh, I see you, Taylor. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Persephone, for taking the time to meet with us and share so many secrets and tips about the inner workings of being a successful influencer and working with brands long term.
I'm so glad. It was wonderful on my part too. And all of you, thank you for attending. And if there's anything you need to know, please ask. I'm here.
Awesome. So everyone go follow Persephone and send her a DM. For the Blogger Union, our webinars continue next week. We're going to be talking about media management. I know we all take a bazillion photos and then you're looking for that one photo and it's lost in the mess. So we are going to get our digital life in order. So join us. It's July 22nd, I believe. If you go to the Blogger Union .eventbrite.com, you'll see all of our upcoming webinars. So thanks again for joining us, and we will see you at the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Persephone.
Thank you so much.